How's everyone doing today? Got lots of new faces. I appreciate all of you guys being here today. Like I said, we're going to get started in 1 minute, everyone. We're going to be going through, how to use Fmls today. Excuse me. Starting with, kind of the basics. There's going to be a lot of new agents in here that, may have never used Fmls, may have never really used it to its full potential. Not taking advantage of setting clients up on searches. Knowing how to pull statistics, and I was telling Rodney out there, when I was in sales, I've been licensed almost 12 years now, 12 years at Christmas. I went to college a year early and got into real estate in college with my dad, flipping. We bought like a $12,000 house in college, and I got interested in real estate and went to all the seminars like the year after college and spent all that money, and then realized that maybe I should just get my real estate license, and been with KW the whole time. And one of the things I was priding myself on is being prepared, right? I don't love to show up to anything unprepared. It makes me super uncomfortable, and it just never goes as well, right? And so I used to win a lot of listings and buyers, and they always used to tell me, we picked you because you're the most prepared. What I was telling Rodney outside was, it maybe wasn't as much as my preparedness as others' unpreparedness, right? The truth was, I didn't spend a whole day preparing for their listing presentation. I would maybe spend an hour getting ready for the listing presentation, and I had a rule that I'd go preview a couple of the homes before I went to their home. That way I could turn over an MLS sheet, and when I'm talking to the seller, I'm gonna go through this in more depth, just saying, to the seller, it's important we know, the sold homes, but if we list your home today, we need to know when a buyer comes through your home, what other couple of homes are they going to go see and compare your home to them, and they're going to make an offer on the one that's the most value. And then I'll just start talking knowledgeably about these two homes, and they would think, wow, this guy's the market expert. He knows everything. When the truth was, an hour ago, I just walked through those homes with my sheet and made some notes and pulled out the important parts, compared it to their home, and that was their definition of being incredibly prepared, right? And so the good news is you can be a brand new agent, walk in there with a few kind of charts and statistics we'll talk about today, break down to the seller, what that means to them and how it affects their home, talk knowledgeably on a couple of homes on the market, and all of a sudden you're the market expert, right? When the truth is, I could have been licensed last week, and they're not necessarily going to know that. First is, when I show up to an appointment and I say to the seller, Mr. Seller, do you have any questions for me today? What questions are they going to ask me? What do you think? What questions are they going to throw out right then and there? Because the sellers don't know what questions to ask, right? So what questions do you think they ask me?
How much?
Yeah, they ask you that, but then they're going to ask me personal questions. Like, how long you been in the business for? How many homes you sold? You ever sold a home in this neighborhood before? And all of a sudden I'm thinking, man, I only got a license last week. Well, actually, I'm brand new. I've never sold a home. I've definitely never sold a home in your neighborhood. And I just let them control the conversation, right? Versus me kind of showing up prepared, having an agenda. I'm still going to ask them questions like, is there anything specific you want to make sure, you'd like me to cover today? Here's what I have planned, and kind of ask them the questions. But again, a huge percentage of agents just show up and they ask, Quentin, what do you want to list your home for today?
300,000.
Beautiful, but really his home's worth 225. But they just heard all their friends for the last year just got 30,000 above this price. They hear this and this, and all of a sudden in the shifting market, anyone ever taken a listing before that was overpriced and you just couldn't sell it? Yeah, that's like the worst experience you can ever have. Okay, there's people that are on the belief that assigning the yard is a potential deal, and that's not untrue. But also, 3 calls a week, 4 calls a week from a seller saying, hey, why aren't there showings? Why aren't you selling my house? That's also demotivating enough that all of a sudden, I'm not in a great mood today. I don't feel like doing my lead gen, all because I took an overpriced listing, right? And so if you do take an overpriced listing, you better be marketing the heck out of it, open houses, one, have educated the sellers why. And I'm willing to take a slightly overpriced listing. If I think that Quincy's house is worth 285 and he says 300, we can talk about what it's going to take to reduce his home in time. Mr. Seller, let's get on the market this Thursday, and after 2 weekends, if we still don't have offers, we need to react before the market reacts for you. And that's close enough that I'm taking that listing. But out of the ballpark, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000, in an average price, that's just going to be an energy drain for you, right? And so, like I said, we're going to prepare for some of that stuff today. And just walk through again, interactive class. If you guys have questions, you guys should be seeing my screen on Zoom right there. If you're not, please jump off and tell me. One time I got like 20 minutes into a class without sharing a screen, and then someone told me. So beautiful. So fmls.com is now first MLS, and it rediverts you to FMLS. If you don't have your logins, you get with agent services, and they will make sure that you are set up correctly, okay? So again, we're gonna begin with some basics, with some setups, just so you know. So we've gone into, right here, see my first little sword today, products, and we've gone into matrix, okay? I spent a lot of time in matrix. Just be aware of, the FMLS area, okay? We're in a required FMLS area here, meaning if you list a home, it has to be in the MLS. We have a brokerage agreement with them, and if it isn't, and if you don't list it in the FMLS, they can still come after you for that 0.0012% sale fee, okay? And as the market shrinks and tightens, they will start coming after you for that money, believe me. But also know what areas aren't in FMLS, because let's just say we have some clients that are going out to Lake Oconee looking for something very specific. They have a tiny little MLS there themselves. We go into Athens, for example, there's a different MLS there. So occasionally we do jump into Georgia MLS. Georgia MLS is great for a few things. It's just not as clean looking, not quite as, friendly on the client side, but there are times that we'll jump into Georgia MLS as well. So we'll get a class going for that. So right here, we're on the home screen. We're going to cover a lot on this home screen because there's a lot of great stuff. But we're real quick going to click on our name in the top right corner, and we're going to go into settings, okay? A few things to do inside of settings. The first thing that we want to make sure that we do is just have our information displayed correctly, okay? When you joined the office, they inputted your information, but maybe it's changed a little bit since then. So the top left widget, my information, just make sure your name is displayed how you want it to be displayed. Maybe you go by a different name than what, the name on your driver's license is. You can click override and change that. Your email address, office address, so on. That should definitely be correct. But moving over to just a little bit here, you have the header and footer. So this is when I'm sending out branded emails, right? I've got a buyer and I want to make sure every morning I'm sending them a list of homes that have come on the market. It can have, your smiling face, your contact information, all that good stuff ready to go for them. And, you can change some of the pictures. You can change the color of the picture, your name. We're not really going to do that in today's class. You can see select a different banner image. You can upload something. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you said click on our name in the top right corner.
Yeah, top right corner, and then settings. So we've gone into matrix. We've clicked on matrix, and then we've clicked on your name and gone settings. Okay. The next one is your email signature right here. Again, when you send out some client properties, they're just going to see this information just here. Okay. We're not going to spend too much time in that. Just know, go into matrix, click on your name, go settings. Just make sure everything looks correct, okay? So I'm going to click on my name and go settings again. And there's a few other things right here. We're just going to focus on one of them today before we jump into kind of searches and pull in stats. Right here where it says hot sheets, okay? If I go back into my matrix on my dashboard, I've got a few things that are right here, and one of them in the top right are hot sheets. So hot sheets is basically a saved filter. Okay, so let's say I'm trying to become, a market expert. Okay, and there's a few things that I want to learn about. I'm going to save, maybe a search for my city under a certain price point. Maybe I'm going to go choose the county that I'm specializing in and just save a search. Maybe I'm looking to save something, under $200,000. My goal is to build an investor list over the next 6 months, learn what those investors want, and at the end of the day, a lot of times it's underpriced. If you can find me a home under this price, send it to me, and there's a chance I want to go take a look at it. And the race that we have right now is, how do I provide the information to my client before they go find it themselves, right? When I first started selling, Zillow was around, and some of the other websites were around. but they relied on us agents so much more to send them properties. Now, you know, every website's got an app. We've got an app. You know, they, you know, their phone, you know, sends push notifications all throughout the day, and they're getting that home instantly, right? And so nothing's worse than my client calling me saying, hey, you know, we just saw this home online. Have you seen it? And me kind of saying no. And so in that, I want to make sure that I'm up to date with the home. So my rule of thumb, if I have a hot buyer meaning if the right home comes on the market, we're going to go look at it. I'm setting myself up on those searches as well. Maybe it is an extra email that you create that is all about just FMLS searches that we check, you know, once an hour. We're going to get into sending some saved searches to ourselves. Most importantly, we're getting the clients onto our branded app, especially when they're in, you know, the just looking stage, right? So many times we talk to people and their motivation is, well, you know, I'm ready to move when my kid graduates. You know, school year, you know, kind of just started. And so that's what, 9 months out until they're ready to move. I'm going to nurture them over the next 9 months. That's perfect for our app, for our website. But when I have a hot buyer, you know, ultimately I'm setting them up on the MLS just because, you know, the second that home lists, I'm going to get that push notification to send out to them. Okay. So hot sheets are basically just saved searches. Again, you want to specialize in a certain area, you know, become the expert in that area. So we're going to click our name and go settings. And right here where it says hot sheets, you can see I've got 7 of them set up. And basically, when you get into this page, you are, let's just set one up real quick. We can click add. We'll name it. And we'll hit save. And you can see it added it right down the bottom there. And when I hit edit criteria, we're looking at this screen. That's the MLS search criteria, right? We're going to be seeing that several times today. This is the part where, you know, we're inputting our buyer's criteria. One of the reasons why I always recommend that you have a buyer consultation in the office or at a place that you can take a computer is, anyone ever had a buyer consultation with an unrealistic buyer? Do you know the number one way to, because I never want to tell someone they're wrong, right? But when the MLS tells them that they're unrealistic, that's much better than me being honest with them, even though honesty is the best way. So when I put in their criteria and it pops up with 3 homes, and I click on these 3 homes, I show them real quick, and I say, what do you think of those 3 homes? Are those homes you'd be interested in looking at and potentially make an offer on? And they say, absolutely not. You know, what do we have to now do? We now have to ask more questions, and we have to have them expand their search criteria, right? Maybe we've got to adjust our search area. Maybe, you know, we don't need 6 bedrooms. Maybe, you know, 4 bedrooms that are of a good size is a more realistic criteria for them. And again, we never want to tell someone they're wrong, but if we don't have a buyer consultation, if we don't have a listing presentation, and we go live on the market or we start showing buyers, that experience isn't going to be great, okay? And I can tell you from experience, some of the worst buyers I've worked with are friends I knew personally, and it's because I skipped the first step of working with the buyer, right? I never sat down with my friend and said, hey, here's what's going on in the market. Here is the steps that it takes to buy a home. You know, here's some obstacles you're going to face. I forgot to mention what the inspection report looks like. And guess what happens when you don't talk about an inspection report to a buyer and then they get a 70-page report? You know, they're scared, right? They're thinking that their house is going to fall down and they got to go look for another one. So at the end of the month, I've got a buyer consultation class. I've got a great buyer consultation, and it really walks through, you know, the steps. You know, we review the contract, and then, you know, we close them. And my best close that I have is, you know, who's he? When there you go, full time, I get it on 4. When you think I'm going to be able to do a great job helping you find your next home? And they never say no to that question. Even if they're thinking it, they'll never say that. And then I turn that buyer brokerage around and say, here's where we agree to work together. So when we close a seller, we ask, you know, Mr. Seller, think I'm going to be able to do a great job helping you list and sell your home for top dollar? They still always say yes, even if they're not ready to sign that paper. And I turn around and say, you know, this is the agreement that we have to work together. Here are a few of the main points, you know, sign here, here, and here. Okay. Anyone have better closes than that? There are better closes than that, but the soft introduction of those two closes, you're getting them to say yes, and then you're introducing the contract to them, which is kind of the hardest part of it, okay? So just always remember that when you're meeting with both of them. So for this hot sheet, we were setting it up for Tucker. We would simply type in Tucker. You want to do a price point. Always make sure you're aware when we pull statistics in just a minute, you're going to see the difference in statistics when we have no value filter, meaning, $0 to, unlimited money. And then when I change that filter to be 0 to say 500,000, you're going to really see the difference in those statistics. Okay. Let me come right back here to you guys. Okay. That way, can you still see? Did I kind of just block you? I'm going to be right here, okay? I can see you guys looking around me. Yeah, this camera, just in case you actually want to look at me. There you go. And we're hearing a lot on the news, right? Shifting market, or they're not using the word shifting market. Sometimes they're calling it a declining market. Sorry for making you move. Sometimes they're calling it, home prices are going down. When really, when we pull the statistics, we're going to see maybe the median price is going down. But the average home price isn't going down. And so being able to interpret that, when we pull the statistics in just a minute, we're going to look at the difference between 07 and 08 and today, because you're going to be having conversations with buyers that say, I'm just going to wait to buy until the market crashes. And we have a friend that had an $800,000 budget 3 years ago that really had $1 million, wish. And they're still looking, and they're not going to buy a home in a long time, right? They upped their budget like $50,000, but the market went up $300,000, and they were educated, okay? They just had other people giving them input that was telling them, wait, this is going to happen. Now they have 3 kids living in like a 1,600 square foot home, and they can't find anything to move to because they got, big wishes moving forward. So we're going to cover all that. You can see we added the hot sheet. So again, just a real quick snapshot. Probably not the first thing I'm doing every morning, but if I want to become, if I'm a newer agent and I want to become a market expert, I'm going to spend 20 minutes a day in the MLS. Okay, we're looking for content to post on social media. What better way than to find a listing in the MLS that just got listed today that is an investment property, and I post on social media, amazing investment opportunity, came online today, message me if you'd like more information. Guess what? You're going to start attracting investors, right? Obviously, if we're attracting investors, we also know how to speak the investor language, okay? How do you calculate return on investment? How do you calculate a cap rate? I have a friend right now that wants to get into investing, and he is the lowest risk person ever, okay? And the other day, he started sending me Airbnb properties. I don't consider Airbnb, a low risk property. He should be buying, something like a new construction home that is giving him okay returns that he'll never have to maintain, and stick it with a management company. And he's starting to see that now. But when we're working with investors, we're asking them, you're looking for a quick flip? You're looking for long-term investments? What does that mean to you? But we're going to learn about it all by being in the MLS every single day, okay? So we're going to hop back onto the My Matrix screen. And the next 2 things we're going to look at right here is this market watch. You can see there's some, colored line graphs right there. And then we're going to jump into InfoSpark. So that's going to be 2 pieces of information. So I talk about, live video all the time. Does anybody feel like they're doing live video at a, a fair level to a high level right this second? And that's the response I always get. And I always ask people, why not? So why not? Why aren't we doing more video? Throw some ideas out there. Is this a safe room? Don't like speaking? Okay. We hear that a lot. Maybe we don't love speaking because we're not just 100% sure what to say. And I tell people this all the time, and it sounds so basic. When we hear about, a lender giving us an interest rate update, we think, well, that's simple. Everybody knows that, right? But our sphere of influence, our database, our potential clients, they don't hear real estate every single day. So a really simple fact or stat to us is actually, impressive to them. It means something to them. You're educating them. So when you get on live video, you don't have to have, world-breaking news. you just need to have some information and do it consistently, right? So what happens if we started once a month updating everybody saying, hey guys, wanting to give you the market update this month. We had, and pick an area. Don't go the whole MLS because that's too many homes, and maybe don't pick a city because you want to sell outside of your city. Pick a county. And hey, we had this number of new listings this month. We had this number of homes go under contract this month. We had this number sell. Now we used to be tracking a stat that said there was 100 new homes that got listed and there was 200 homes that sell. That means we're in a declining inventory and we're moving further and further into a deeper seller's market. Now we flipped a little bit, right? We're coming up from the bottom of the number of homes for sale and we're listing more homes than what is selling. And that's okay, because historically, not every home that got listed on the market sold, right? There's a lot of agents now that don't know how to have a price reduction conversation with a seller, because for the last 3 years, we've not really had to do a price reduction, right? There's people that don't know how to prospect to expired listings because there weren't really expired listings around anymore. So right here, this market watch, you can see it's pulling statistics for us. And I know you guys are looking at a blurry screen, so I'll read it out. New listings back on the market, price decreases, price increases. Some people increase their price. Most of the time, that's an agent that typed a button wrong when they were listing the home, and the seller said, hey, I thought we said we were listing at $350, not $250. And they had to go in there and do a price increase. Pending, on hold, there was stages that came around with COVID. You can withdraw your home, well, not officially withdraw it and put it on hold just there. Expired, 69. That number used to say 2 or 3, 4, 5, okay? And there was big reasons why that home was expired. Huge price, disparity between the market, big condition issues. Active under contract. When an agent changes the status from active to pending, active under contract is, some people use it as due diligence. We're in due diligence. Some people will use it as, hey, I've got a kick out clause, meaning if we get a better offer, I can kick the current offer out and accept this new offer. It gets kind of used both ways. And some people just put their listing straight to pending. But right here, this says a 7-day running average. So I always want to do I prefer tracking 7 days statistics, okay? And so maybe that video is a weekly video. The reason I don't want to do a 24-hour statistics is, if I do it on Tuesday, I'm reading them off the number of homes that got listed on Monday, right? And in my opinion, the best day to list a home is Thursday because, one, for a selfish reason, I get to really market that home. I get to do open houses this weekend. I get to do an event and drive a lot of people there. And I also, for a seller benefit, give them the whole weekend, right? If I list a home on Monday and Tuesday morning, I get a pretty good offer. You know how hard it is to tell that offer, hey, if you don't mind just waiting like another 7 days and we'll get right back to you. That'll make them angry. Versus if I list on Thursday afternoon and Friday evening, I get a fairly good offer. So, hey, we got a lot of showings and a lot of activity this weekend. My sellers wanted to get back to everybody Sunday evening or Monday morning. And they're going to accept that, okay? At the same time, we know when an amazing offer comes in that we need to jump on and start negotiating with right away. But don't miss out on those chances for open houses, okay? We talked about lead generation earlier and paying for leads. There's no cheaper way to generate leads in an open house, right? Meet neighbors, meet people coming through the area, advertise online. Very cheap way of doing it. So when I go into the market watch right here, there's a little customize button. When I hit customize, guess what screen we're looking at? We're looking at that Mls Search Criteria, right? And I've got Gwinnett County inputted right here. I could very easily put a comma there and add another county as well. So I'm pulling both counties. But I think if I did a weekly Facebook Live video, giving them the last 7 days of data, one, Facebook's going to love you because we're giving Facebook free content. Their algorithms love it when we get online. And you've mentioned that you don't love speaking. People want to see your real authentic self on video, okay? They don't really want to see you in some high production studio, green screen, because they're not going to relate to that. They're going to relate to you, maybe with your selfie stick in your open house kitchen, showing out the nicest feature of this home, and hey, in the comments, tell me your favorite feature of the home. They can put themselves in your shoes just there. Okay, so again, we're talking about the stats of new homes under contract and sold homes. I mean, those aren't crazy statistics to sell, right? To tell. But do you think our database goes somewhere every day to get a snapshot of the homes that got listed and sold? Of course they don't. But if they know, and I can train them to start coming to me and just watch 45 seconds of my video every week, my goal is always that when someone gets the urge to buy a home, that they reach out to me real quick. So a great question to my database as a new agent when I'm calling them is, out of curiosity, a quick question. If you were to see a home come online tonight that you were interested in, what would your next step be? And you'll hear all kinds of answers from that. Hopefully it's, well, I'll call you. It's probably not going to be that. It's probably going to be like, whoa, I don't know, I guess I would ask to see the home. Well, who would you ask? Over the next few months, I would love just to keep you up to date with the market and provide you with some info so that I can become your go-to realtor. And if you ever have any questions, you can reach out to me at any time, right? Super basic script. We got to train them. Like, I think it was Rodney. Rodney talked about new agents not asking for help because they don't want to bother someone. Do you know how many people in your database don't want to reach out to you with a basic question because they don't want to bother you? And then they click on, Zillow, and they ask an agent, and then guess what that agent does? That agent converts them. And then all of a sudden, well, I meant to use you, but this other agent, they were just there. Right? They just magically appeared and they showed me the home and I used them. I'll use you next time in 8 years' time. But it was because I never told them, hey, reach out to me for whatever. Here's some reasons people reach out to me. Our goal is to be a resource, right? And so, do you share your vendors and your contractors with people? When you talk to big teams and mega agents and their phones ring more often saying, hey, we're thinking about renovating our bathroom. Do you have a guy or a girl that's great at tiling? They reach out to them so many more for those reasons than, hey, I'm ready to come list my house. But when they are reaching out to me asking for a tile person and I stay in contact with them, when it does come time to sell their house, the chance of them using me is pretty high. Not guaranteed, but it's a lot higher, right? So again, that market watch. Basic, but don't underestimate it, okay? Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward, right? Just remember, when you're interpreting data to someone, don't scare them, okay? People don't react well in fear. Just like the last 2 years, I tried to help people understand that it's not good to tell people we're in a crazy real estate market. Okay, does anyone here love crazy? Do people avoid crazy? Most of the time we avoid crazy, right? What happens if we switch the word crazy to competitive? Hey, it's a super competitive real estate market. The good news is I know exactly how to navigate it and exactly how to help you win a competitive home. We're saying the same thing there, right? But some people don't do well to crazy, believe me. So we see this little info sparks widget right here. Just know you can grab these, you can move them around. It's all interactive. Info sparks, it's on the left side as well. I'm going to click right down here to where it says more stats. And in being prepared for our listing appointments, our buyer appointments, we're going to pull a few statistics right here. Okay? So up top right here, that's our criteria. We have the MLS area. I typically just default to Gwinnett County. Price. My goal is really not to go too narrow in these searches, but it is important that I select the right area, and it is important that I select the right price. And we're going to change the price in just a minute, okay? And outside that, I'm leaving it the same. On the right side, I can go through 1 year of history, 3 years, 5 years, or max. So I like to change it to max for a class like this. And you can see max, unfortunately, is 2009. I wish it would go back to kind of 2006 so we can really see the difference in data. But I know some of the differences in data. I'm going to give it to you because being able to answer the question of what's the difference in today's market than 2007, 2008 is going to be a very common question that you get, okay? In fact, I'm going to change it to 3 years for this one. So we've heard about home prices are going down, right? list in the news, they've said that, but our home price is going down or our median home price is going down. We can see right here that in June 2022, the median home price in Gwinnett was $435, and today it's $402. So why do we think that the median house price has gone down in Gwinnett County? What are some answers to that? So interest rates have caused it, yep. So what this tells me is less of the higher priced homes are selling, right? Some of those higher priced homes are second homes. Some of those higher priced homes are, luxury. The luxury market has scaled back a little bit. Now, again, in the news, we hear about crazy, 6 months ago, it's the craziest market ever. And then when sales have dropped off a few percent, all of a sudden the market is, falling apart. A few percent off crazy is not that bad, right? And so just always remember, we can kind of control the temperature of the room, okay? So I'm making sure, this right here means a lot more if I'm talking to a luxury seller than if I'm talking to a seller that's at $350,000, right? So know what charts we're going to bring. So we're talking to a seller, and the seller's, deciding, should I list my home now? Well, should I wait a few months? Ultimately, it's always going to be about what their motivation is, right? But there's some sellers that it doesn't matter whether it's now or it's in 3 months' time. They just got to make an educated decision, okay? So the number of new listings coming on to the market right here. So this chart right here, we can see it's a 3-year. It's harder to interpret this chart because real estate is a little seasonal, right? When's our biggest selling season? Summer, exactly. So you can see going back years, that it goes up some and it goes down some. And so just know when we're prepping our sellers for the market, when does summer selling season start? Yeah, April. Yeah. And it depends on where it's controlled. I used to sell a lot in Brookwood, and Brookwood was super heavy, people moving in for the school. And there were so many sellers that would get their home on the market in like July. And wonder, why all of a sudden did my friend get all these showings and I didn't get all these showings? Well, your friend listed in May. Okay, so when we're educating sellers, we're talking about prepping the home early. Mr. Seller, I'd love to stop by and give you my opinion of your home now, so that over the next few months, you have some items to work on. I always love to tell a seller, the sooner I can come through your home and give you some advice, the better. Because the last seller I met with spent $30,000 renovating their home, and not one item that they spent $30,000 on would help their home sell and would get them any return on investment, okay? I met a seller one time who spent $30,000 ripping their walls apart and insulating their whole house right before they were getting ready to list it, okay? Had we met, 6 months earlier, hopefully I could have saved them $30,000 and they would have been able to update their kitchen, but they couldn't, okay? Some other ones for sale. So homes for sale. So the two charts right here, homes for sales have gone up, and we call that kind of a flat line, but the number of new listings has gone down. So what's that telling us? That certain homes are sitting on the market for longer now, right? I was in a great class with Jason Abrams the other day. Jason Abrams was the guy on the left when we saw that video in team meeting, and he was talking about the way agents measure their business and the length of a transaction. Okay, over the last kind of 18 months, we've been used to homes kind of listing and selling in 45 days, 30 days. Now we're going to be moving more back into the average where it's like 60, 70 days. So what that tells agents, some agents measure their business on how many deals I have under contract right now. As long as I always have 2 listings and 2 buyers under contract, I'm super happy with my business. Well, that was great when we were closing in 30 days, but now that it takes 60 days, you're going to need double that number. You're now going to have to be holding 4 listings all the time, and you're going to be having to have 4 buyers under contract because there's some overlap between buyers, right? And just know that new construction home that takes 9 months to build, are we saying for 9 months that I've got that home under contract, or are our goals different? Hey, my goal is to put 1 new buyer under contract per month. We can measure those a little better, right? So we're moving along a little bit more here, and stop me if you have questions on this. Of course, days on market. I mean, how ridiculous is this? We're going from 5 days on market in average. We're now up to 10 days. Okay. So someone could interpret this data is taking twice as long to sell a home. And other people can interpret this data saying, well, in 2020, would you agree we had an incredibly healthy real estate market? Well, the average was 39 days, and today it's 10. So we're still at a quarter of the amount of time that took compared to a very healthy market in 2020. You know, we can manipulate data at you know, however we want, right? We go cherry pick those. I just went through a ridiculous tax assessment appeal with Walton County, and I got an in-person hearing, and do you know what comps I showed up with? The worst comps on the market, right? I wasn't going to go take the home that, you know, supported their price. I went and took, you know, the homes that almost looked like my home that probably had issues with them, but they couldn't tell from one picture. And I went cherry pick the data. Okay, again, we don't cherry pick data, you know, when we're working with buyers and sellers, but there are times where we will. Here's a great one: month supply of inventory. Does anyone want to interpret what month supply of inventory means?
The number of properties that's sold over a 12-month period, divided by 12 to see what the average is per month, according to what is on the inventory. If it's selling 200 a month, then the inventory might be 400 properties. You're at 2 months.
Yep.
It'll take 2 months for that.
Yep. So the way I'd explain to a buyer and seller is, this is what inventory rate means. If we stop selling homes today, or we stop listing homes for sale today, and we keep selling them at the current rate that we've been selling them for the past 6 to 12 months, it will take X number of months to sell them all. You know, just different ways of interpreting right there. And what is considered a balanced market? How many months of inventory is a balanced market?
6.
6. Has anyone been an agent in this room with 6 months of inventory? I have. No? So let me go month supply of inventory. Let's go to the max. Going back to 2012, we never hit 6 months of inventory. Does anyone think it was good that we had 0.8 months of inventory last year, beginning of this year? I don't think it was great. Right? You know how many buyers, you know, got beat up and went back to renting? And, you know, we knew that wasn't the best thing for them. But sometimes when you get beat up, you know, things happen, right?
Can you explain that again? I'm sorry. The monthly.
Sure.
And how
So,
would you remember, like, how do you, like, when I leave out of this class, how do I?
sure. So we talk about buyers markets and we talk about sellers markets. So 6 months of inventory is a balanced market, meaning, you know, the power between sellers and buyers is the same, if you will. And so less than 6 months of inventory for sale means there are more buyers than there are sellers, right? And when there are more buyers than there are sellers, you have multiple buyers competing for the same property. And that's when the sellers have the power and the sellers can say, what's your name?
Sophie.
You know what, Sophie? We're not going to fix one thing on your inspection report because we got 11 offers. And if, you know, you want us to fix those things, we're just going to go to the next buyer and tell them that if they want the home, we're not fixing it. Okay. A buyer's market would mean there's more sellers than there are buyers, and it's above 6 months of inventory. So right here, we're looking at this chart right here with no, with absolutely no, no price filter in there. But if I was to come right here and type in, you know, 750 to 3 million or 30 million, whatever I just typed in, it may not go that high. But if we manipulate the data a little bit to, here you go, 750 or more, it's crunching the numbers, we'll give it just a second. And we're only looking at the luxury market. Check this out. Between 2014 and 2015, $750,000 and above, there was 25 months of inventory. Meaning, and so I once made a statement to my team leader, you know, I don't really want to list luxury. It was in about this time frame. I don't really want to list luxury homes. And she said to me, I don't know if you know Paige Powers, you know, she's a small, intimidating lady. She told me, you know, that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever said. Why would you say that? And I said, well, I don't have much money right now. You know, I don't have the money to market this property like I should, to hold it like I should. And she said, well, what you need to do is get a listing agreement that has enough time on the listing agreement that matches the market so that you have enough time to sell it. So don't walk into, in 2014, 2015, don't meet a luxury seller and say, sure, I'll sign a 3-month listing agreement and spend $5,000 marketing your property. You should be getting a 2-year listing agreement. Okay. One of the ways to kind of bypass that with a luxury listing, if you're in the same situation I was, have the seller pay for the marketing. Right? Of course, you know, we're negotiating commissions right now. When a luxury seller starts negotiating my commission, one of the reasons why my commission is this, because of the risk and the liability that I have. And the risk is, you know, upfront marketing expenses, these fees, Mr. Seller, if you're willing to cover those fees, we can negotiate here and we can create a win-win together, okay? And so they're paying a lot of those upfront fees. I'm taking most of the risk out of off my plate onto their plate, and maybe I can, you know, negotiate the commission more with them, okay? But you see the difference right here when I just changed the numbers from the whole market to $750,000 and above, and the luxury market in Atlanta is like 770, I believe, right this second. In 2014-15, I believe it was like 575 to be like considered luxury. And they take, you know, the top percentage of listings sold to calculate down what is a luxury listing. So the agents that get luxury designations or join the Keller Williams Luxury exclusive club, they have sold, you know, 2 homes in the last 12 months at the luxury price point. Okay, and luxury designation is important to, you know, some people. So it is a designation that I would pursue right there. And so we're interpreting this months of supply with a seller right here. So again, Gwinnett County, all price ranges. Mr. Seller, I know that you said it doesn't matter to you whether you list today or you list around Christmas time. You just got to be to Florida by next summer. Here's why it could be advantageous for you to list today instead of waiting. Wouldn't you agree that the less homes for sale there are on the market, you know, the better advantage you have when it comes to buyers? As you can see, you know, with the interest rates going up, with, you know, just talk of the market, there are sellers that are, you know, bringing their home sale forward and they're listing now instead of a few months' time. So, you know, let's take advantage of the market now. Knowing how to kind of just break that down. Does anyone know in 2007, 2008, how many months of inventory there was on the market? Take a wild guess. Almost. There was between like between about 8 and 10, depending on who you ask, what area. So you're telling me that before the market crashed, there was 9 months of inventory on the market, and then the market crashed, and then guess where it went? You know, even more homes. When I first got into real estate, I worked for a like an investment firm, and they would send me to the courthouse steps, and we'd buy homes on the courthouse steps. There was insane numbers of homes, hundreds and hundreds of homes on that Tuesday at Gwinnett County. The last, well, obviously during COVID, we stopped foreclosures. So when someone pulls out a statistic and they say, you know, I read this article that said like foreclosures are up 1,200% right now. Does anyone know why they're up 1,200%? Because during COVID, you couldn't foreclose on somebody, right? So do you think now that those kind of memorandums or whatever you call them are stopping, do you think, and there's banks that are foreclosing now, all of a sudden there's like 20 at the courthouse step versus 0? There's a crazy statistic that you could use to scare a lot of people, right? And one of the things I always tell my friends that want to wait for that kind of deal, you may have heard Jason and Brian talking about this a lot. You know, foreclosures just aren't hitting the courthouse steps anymore. Okay, there's so many huge, like Blackstone just raised how many billions of dollars to go to Bank of America to say, hey, here's how much money we have. When you get this number of people that are starting to default on their loans, we're buying them right now before you even have to foreclose on them. And so Wall Street will win the foreclosure. Us normal people won't win it, right? We don't have billions of dollars. And if you do, I doubt you'd be sitting in my class today, right? Hopefully not. But if, you know, they're going to get those homes. They're not going to see the normal market. And Bank of America is going to go to that homeowner and work it out with them. Or Blackstone, the new owner is, turn them into a rent to own, you know, give the home to them and give them, you know, a 5-year lease, things like that. The average person is not going to take advantage of that, okay? So next one, list a sales price. Anyone ever had an unrealistic buyer? Yeah? Good. If you haven't, then you're definitely a new real estate agent. So there's 2 ones that we have right here, okay? Percentage of list price and percentage of original list price. So Quentin listed his home at $300,000. And after 3 months, I finally was able to show him the data, and the market told him, your home is really worth 250. Okay. 300 was, so in this first box right here, percentage list price, when his home sells for 250, the percentage of list price is going to be, like 80%, maybe 82.5%, something like that. But sorry, the percentage of list price is going to be 100% because I just reduced it to 250 and then we sold it for 250. But the percentage of original list price, because we originally listed at 300 and we sold it 250, is going to be like 80%. So again, picking data. But when I'm talking to buyers and I'm explaining them the market, and we're talking about competitive homes, and I'm asking them, hey, Mrs. Buyer, you are looking for one of the best homes on the market, right? Because usually a buyer doesn't come to you and say, you know, we'll take the worst home on the market, right? We start by looking at the best, and the best is usually the most competitive. Currently, at all price points, the average list to sales price is 100%. Meaning the average home is selling for what it listed for. Let's change this real quick and change it from 0. What's your guys' average price point here? Roughly?
4.
Around 4? Okay, yeah. You guys probably tuck into Atlanta. You guys probably have a good range in your average list price because some of you going into Atlanta, I would assume you guys are pretty wide in that range. But average list to sales price, we saw this 100% right here. I'm about to go to $400,000 and less. And we're at 100, and we're actually matching it at 100%. But right here, just 4 or 5 months ago in May, under $400,000, we were at 102.7%, okay? So in our buyer consultation, we're talking to the buyers and saying the average home is selling for 102%, meaning a home that's listed for 100,000, the average one is selling for 102,700. And based on what we've just talked about, we're not looking for the average home. We're looking for one of the best homes on the market. So some of the best homes on the market can go $5,000 to $10,000. Now, how does that make you feel? Because what I don't want to hear is them say, well, I'll never make an offer over list price. You know, we'll just keep going to 80% and
No such thing.
fine. Okay. So my goal is to try and say, you know, list price is a guide. Okay. It's a guide and a starting point, and sometimes we're going to come across a home that is listed too high, and we'll be able to pull some data and look at the numbers, and we'll see that. And sometimes we're going to come across a home that was listed too low, and we'll know that because we're going to pull up for that Saturday morning show, and there's going to be 15 people waiting in line. We're not going to be able to park in the cul-de-sac, and maybe instead of listing at 250, that home should be listed at 270. Okay, so while list price is a guide, what I want you to understand, Mrs. and Mrs. Buyer, is that we're going to jump into the MLS and look at the true data. And occasionally there's going to be a time where if you want the home, and it's always your decision, we may have to go above that home. Okay. And what I never want to hear is a buyer tell me, and I had a buyer say this one time, can I just sign like a blank contract and you write the number that's going to take me to win the home? And this was someone who was making tons of offers, and he'd always ask me, what do you think will win the home? You know, what should I write there to win the home? And again, I don't want to answer that, right? Because when we don't win the home, who are they going to blame? They're going to blame me. So the way I answer that is, Mr. and Miss Buyer, you need to offer the most amount of money you're willing to pay for this home, so that if you don't win this home and next month you see what it sold for on Zillow, you won't say, man, I wish I paid that. And do you know how many buyers offer, you know, 250 and it sold for 252, and 2 months later they're still looking, they're like, man, we should just pay 252 for that house, shouldn't we? Okay. I don't want you to overpay for this home. You know, trust your gut, but you need to make the offer knowing that if you don't win the home, you offered the most you were willing to pay, and you wouldn't tell yourself, man, I wish I just paid that, right? And the truth is, sometimes buyers self-discover, right? The self-discover is we make 1 or 2 offers that aren't that great. They don't win it. You know, the wife gets mad at the husband because the wife said, you know, I told you we should have just, you know, offered this price for it. The third home comes along and you ask them, you know, about the offer, and all of a sudden they're saying, well, let's offer $8,000 over list price. And you wonder, well, where did that come from? Well, guess what? They self-discovered in the market that their strategy of offering below list price wasn't going to work. So if a buyer tells me I'm looking for a great deal on a home, my response is, great. Tell me, what is a great deal to you? Right? Sometimes it could be my first few homes that I bought, my wife hated me, but we had to do a lot of work in all the homes. Okay? All the homes needed a bunch of work. They were just about passing, FHA loans, and there was a lot of sweat equity put in that home. The last house, we built our house. We built it because we were tired of doing all that work. Right? We're still doing work to it somehow. Who knows why? But it's a different kind of work now. And so my interpretation of a good deal is different. A good deal could be, I want to buy this home knowing that over the next 5 years, I'm going to have to put very little home money into this home. That's a good deal to them. So just make sure you're asking, what is a good deal to you, okay? So the main charts that I'm taking to a listing presentation, again, coming across as the market expert to them, the number of homes for sale, the number of new listings coming on, just kind of interpret that, cyclical market, just that percentage of list to sales price. I was in a great class the other day, and I need to make a video on this, but they pulled the list to sales price of homes that went under contract in their first 5 days on the market. And then they pulled a list to sales price for homes that had a price reduction. And we're talking like 4 or 5% difference here. Meaning, and Rodney mentioned the term at family reunion, they talked about, chasing your price downhill. I always tell a seller this, Mr. Seller, when I show a home to a buyer, they always ask me 2 things. What's the price? And how long has it been on the market for? And the problem with those 2 questions is they don't ask me, what was the original list price of this home? Right? Because they don't know that lingo. And so we started off at $300,000 with Quinton's home. And on day 60, we reduced to $250,000 where we should have started all along. And guess what? The buyer that sees it asks his agent, hey, what's the price? $250,000. Okay, well, how long has it been on the market for? 60 days. All right, great. I can get a good deal on this house. Not knowing that yesterday, Quinton just did a $50,000 price reduction. So now Quinton sells for $240,000. Okay, so Rodney mentioned chasing the market downhill. One term that I got told very early in the business is, like rolling a ball downhill. The longer it takes rolling down the hill, the faster it gets, and the harder it is to catch that ball. And eventually, you're just never going to catch it. And some sellers will say, well, we can just withdraw the home from the market for 30 days and put it back on, and no one will ever know, right? Well, that worked 10 years ago. Now, all you need to do is go on Zillow, click on sales history, and it's like, man, this seller's been trying to sell their house for 3 years. I can get a great deal. My goal, Mr. Seller, is to get you the most money possible and have some data that shows listing right the first time, can potentially get you more, okay? So to pull out these charts right here on the right side, we can just go print. And it basically gives it to you as a PDF. I can hit print, or I can hit download. I got a little PDF right there that we can print, take with us. So I'm taking 2 or 3 or 4 of these to every listing appointment, and I'm taking some of these to the buyer's appointment, right? And I'm letting them know, here's what a buyer's market is. Here's what a seller's market is. Here's why the rise in inventory means to you. Let's get our home on the market. If you're thinking about selling in Christmas, let's go end of November. Let's not list it, the week before Christmas. Just kind of know some of your market data right there, okay? Yeah, I'm okay leaving stuff at my presentation. We're going to talk in a minute what I don't leave at a listing presentation. Yeah, I leave everything there. Even if it's a for sale by owner, and I go there with, here's how to sell your home as a for sale by owner. My goal is to be helpful, to be a resource, and sure, you might lose a couple, but you're going to win a couple too. So I used to target for sale by owners heavily when I sold, and I would always approach them of, so what are you doing on the buy side? And I'd start helping them on the buy side, knowing full well they can't buy until they sell. So they find this home that they love, but they got this predicament on the other end that they've still got their home for sale by owner. They can't sell it. All of a sudden, they're like, hey, we need your help. And if they do sell their home for sale by owner and they're using me to buy their home, I still kind of want, right? So, and then again, We talk about past clients, referrals, smart plans. You know, when we do a great job selling someone a home, we should be able to get other business from them as well. It's like when you buy a new car and then you see that new car everywhere, right? Well, when you're buying homes, you know other people are buying homes too. And people are going to ask, you know, buyers and sellers, you know, who did you use? How great was it? And so have you trained your sphere of influence how to pass referrals to you? Passing a referral is not saying, hey, here's my favorite realtor's business card. I've never sold a home from someone saying, hey, like my friend gave you their business card. But I did sell plenty of homes by me asking my friend, hey, when you do have that conversation with someone, will you call me and give me their name and number and I'll follow up with them and I'll keep you up to date? Because we all lose business cards, right? It's going to draw and then they got lost. So not saying don't give business cards out, but if you ask Gary Kettle for his number, he'll pat his pockets. I must just give him out my last business card. Can I get your name and number? Then guess what? Now it's my job to follow up them, right? I always had this conversation with my dad. He's retired now, but we had a fence and deck company that I kind of just helped with. And my dad would tell me all the time, I'm not a salesperson. I just put the fences up. But he was a salesperson because it was only me and him, and I wasn't really working with him, so he was everybody. And he would tell me, what if they want the fence? They'll just call me, right? And some did, but you know how many people wanted the fence, but somebody else followed up with them and they ended up using them instead of him. So it's our job to follow up. And if you ever get told you're following up too much, just back up and say, you know, I'm so sorry. One of the ways I show you that I'm a hardworking realtor is I follow up and I stay in touch and I do what I say I'm going to do. You do want a realtor that, you know, follows through what they say they're going to do, right? Because what's the biggest complaint about real estate agents? What's that? Yeah, communication and follow-up. Man, realtors are terrible at communicating. You know, they said that, you know, Quentin said he would call me back on Friday, and I was, you know, had my phone in my hand all day, and it didn't ring. And then guess what? On Saturday, where they went online, they clicked a button, and someone called them in 2 minutes, and they think, wow, that person's amazing. So don't do the hard work, and then fall short at the end, okay? So we're seeing how just a few of those statistics are going to help us, right? In my listing presentation class, we talk about, do you customize a listing presentation for every single appointment you go on, or do you have a generic presentation and then you take additional pages? I always had a generic presentation, and then I would take some extra pages. So I'm going on a listing presentation, bringing my presentation. I also send them a pre-listing email. The pre-listing email talks a lot about, hey, I'm so excited to meet you. Has some info about me. It has links there. Hey, check out my reviews here. Check out my reviews here. By the way, here is a link to Dropbox. Here's an example of the listing photos from my previous listings, so you can see how great my photographer is. And obviously, I asked my photographer to share those. And guess what I asked in my listing presentation? Have you noticed how many homes get listed online with terrible photos? And then you let them go on like a rant for a minute, and you agree with them. You say, do you know, think about this. If an agent isn't spending money on professional photography, do you think they're spending any money marketing your home? And then let them talk and say, you know, wouldn't you agree that homes that are marketed well would sell more for homes that aren't marketed well? Well, great news. You're talking to somebody that specializes in marketing, right? Play to your strengths, okay? And obviously have those. I promise you guys, photos, you know, I used to pay my photographer like $150, and I'll go into every listing presentation with those photos and say, hey, look how great they are. Look how great they are. And that enough gave me a return on investment. And then I had a few homes that were just beautiful, and I use those pictures all the time, with permission, of course. Just remember, we don't promise anything that we're not going to do. So I had a price point when I did video. So I didn't walk into a $250,000 listing showing them my video, because my price point at the time was like $350 and above. And so I don't talk about video if I'm not going to do video, obviously. But just have all that stuff ready. So we're going to spend about 5 minutes now. We're going to spend about 5 minutes now just going through the search criteria right here. And with your guys' permission, I'm going to touch on Cloud CMA. I know we're running a little bit late. And I will make you guys a longer video, if that's okay, and send to the office of really taking your time on how to build a Cloud CMA. Because Cloud CMA in itself is probably just a class by itself. And then we can walk through you know, the adjustments that we're making. And it's always great to kind of speak to an appraiser to ask them what adjustments are making. Next time you get an appraisal on one of your buyers or your listings, ask to see it, and then go through it and see, you know, what adjustments did the appraiser make? You know, this home had an extra bathroom compared to the other one. How much did they add to it? You know, there was an extra garage on this home compared to the other ones. What price difference did they make? Because when I'm pricing homes, I'm going to do the exact same thing, okay? So we're going to go into search, residential. Again, Matrix is integrating with a lot more MLSs now, so there are some extra ones here on the left side. Property, detached, attached. You know, detached is single family, attached could be condo, could be townhomes. Just remember, if you're selling townhomes, if you're selling condos, Google FHA approved condominiums, okay? And a website will pop up and you'll type in that condominium address and it will tell you whether that is FHA approved or not, okay? Because if you're working with an FHA buyer and the condominium is not approved, yeah, you're in some trouble there, okay? So even if I'm talking to a cash buyer and a condominium is not FHA approved, and let's just say it's, you know, $250,000, I help this investor buy this condo, and in 5 years' time, he or she comes to me to sell it, and it's not FHA approved. Guess how many buyers, $250,000 are FHA buyers? All of a sudden, I've lost 80% of my market, and we may struggle to sell. It's the investor's decision, but I want to educate them on what it means to be FHA approved and not approved, okay? So right here, I take a call. Anyone ever taken a call from someone that say, hey, I want more information on this home, and like they read it off to you like 5 times, you just can't find it in the MLS? That ever happen? That happens sometimes, right? More so. So automatically, I'm going to come on this left side. I'm going to hit select all real quick. 0 to 180. That means, you know, 0 to 180 days in the past number of days. Okay. So closed, you know, the last 6 months. And then maybe I got the street name or the street number. Maybe I didn't. But right here under street name, let's just say I type in flowers. I'm going to put an asterisk right after that. Okay. That asterisk basically opens up the field afterwards. So show me everything that starts with flowers and has whatever after it. A good example of this, in Lawrenceville, there's a neighborhood called Flowers Crossing. Okay, and some people spell Flowers Crossing or crossing C-R-O-S-S-I-N-G, and some people spell crossing X-I-N-G. Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't spell it that way, but believe me, some people spell crossing X-I-N-G. And so, you know, if I just type in Flowers Crossing with a C, I just lost all those comps that are X-I-N-G. But I can put this asterisk right here and kind of open up the field right there. So I'm taking a sign hole and they give me the first part of the street name. You just type it in. Maybe they give you the city as well. And then search. And if you can't find the home, just say, hey, you know what? Let me do a little bit deeper digging on this. I'm going to call you right back. You know, we have multiple MLSs. Maybe it's listed in one and not the other one. But make sure you get some information from them before you hang up that phone, okay? Because you don't want to call back. You had a warm lead call you. You don't want to miss that out. So when it comes to doing a search, okay, let's just real quick. I've got a buyer. They're looking in Gwinnett County. We've got a budget of, you know, $450,000. But based on what they told me, yeah, I'm not going to put 0 as my floor. Bedrooms, they want 4 as a minimum, so 4 plus. Bathrooms, 2 4 plus. Square footage, be very careful of, okay? Because if an agent doesn't put in square footage, it goes to 0. Okay, and I don't want a buyer sending me a home on Zillow that's pending, then say, hey, you know, why didn't you send me this home? Well, it's because in the MLS, it had 0 square foot, and I put in 3,000 plus, and I happened to miss it. So I just kind of have to mentally filter that. This buyer right here, 550 matches. What does that tell me? I need to ask more questions, right? My goal is to never send a buyer, I don't know, more than 30 homes. Because if I send them 100 homes and they just click, 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 that's going to miss a bunch of the good ones, right? So my goal is to ask them enough questions that maybe I see 80 homes. And now my goal is to narrow that down to the best 30. And in my buyer consultation, I've got a little picture of a funnel, and I'm going to show them why we're looking at the best homes first. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I'm going to start with 300 homes. I've got a lot of questions to ask you because I want to narrow that 300 down to 75 in my system. And then I'm going to go through each of those 75 homes and send you the best 30. And from that best 30, you're going to send me your 6 favorite. 4 of them are probably still going to be available. And this weekend, we're going to go see 4. And the one you like is going to be the best home out of 300 homes. So you can see, going back to that list of sales price, how we may need to make a great offer, because we just narrowed the home pool down from 300 to 1, and you're not the only buyer, that's doing the same thing. So that's why I didn't have a problem when I showed a buyer home on a Saturday morning, and we waited for 5 minutes for someone to preview, finish showing the home. Because what does that tell the buyer? Well, if I want this home, I got to compete with this guy right over here, and they're physically seeing that the home is more competitive. Okay. I'm just going to narrow this down real quick so I don't have to load the number of homes. You have a or is not. So our goal is to never tell someone what is or is not a good school district, right? Different opinions for different reasons, but we can provide them with a resource. So just ask them, hey, if there's anything that you want to eliminate or any schools you want to eliminate from your home search, just tell me, and we can remove those for you. But under results, we're looking at the agent single line right here. So from here, you can sort by list date. So when I've got those saved searches, I'm coming in here, and one of the things that we prep buyer on is in our first week of searching, there's going to be a fair number of homes that I sent you that are under contract. The reason why, they actually went under contract 5-6 days ago, but the agents haven't updated their statuses yet. And until I call on each individual one of them, we may not know. However, once we're a week or 2 in, as soon as a home hits the market, we're going to go see it that same day, and we won't have to worry about, calling on a home and it being under contract anymore. But every morning I'm coming in, I'm sorting, I'm looking. Today there was 2 new listings that met this criteria, and if they fit my buyer's needs, I'm texting them saying, hey, are you ready to go see homes this afternoon? Again, kind of matching their motivation. Okay, I'm just going to click into one of the MLS numbers. And from right here, we can see a few things. Home information, bedrooms, bathrooms, school information right here. Square footage. Just know when it pulls tax records, in Georgia, we're very lax on permits and tax records. There's many people that have finished their basement. They never pulled a permit to finish their basement, right? They didn't tell the county. They didn't say, hey, county, come tax me more for having more square footage. And so just know when we list a home, sometimes we override this information, okay? Does anyone know the one piece of information you should never override as an agent? The number of bedrooms for a home that is on a septic. Why is that?
Because the septic is only sustained so many bedrooms, and so if it goes up, it'll come out. Right?
Yeah, so they bought a permit for that septic. And they had it built. And that's pretty hefty fine as an agent, okay? So make sure you educate the sellers on that. I did that very wrong one time. Thankfully, I didn't get caught. My in-laws had like a 9-bedroom house, and they really only had a 4-bedroom septic permit. Of course, we listed it as 9 bedrooms, right? Because we want to market it. And then I took a class like the year after, and it's like, you should never do this. It's like, well, I'm glad that we didn't get caught doing that. So, those things happen, but we just got to kind of know. So right here, we're going to go through 2 things. One, we're getting ready. So Quentin asked, do you leave your stuff behind? The answer is yes, but I leave the correct stuff behind. For example, right here, when I go on a listing appointment, I'm taking my listing presentation, my data. I'm going to take 3 or 4 sales with me, a couple of pendings, and a couple of competition homes. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, and I always ask them, have you seen any of these homes? Occasionally they have, occasionally they haven't. I'm hoping that they haven't, so I can be more knowledgeable than them about those homes. But I'm going to tell them, when we list your home for sale, because we assume, right, we're going to have that assumptive close. When I list your home for sale, when a buyer comes to see your home, in my opinion, currently on the market, these are the other 2 homes they're going to go see at the same time. So when they're previewing homes, they're going to compare your home to these homes, and they're going to make a decision which one to make an offer on. Okay. And right before I've gone on the listing appointment, guess what I just did? I just went through a couple of those active homes, right? I took my printout sheet, I went through it, 10 minutes, made a few notes, condition, a few upgrades, floor plan, etc. And then I start talking to them. So, in comparing this home to your home, this home had hardwoods on the whole main, we've got some carpet here, so that is an adjustment for buyers. However, this home still had, the standard 10 by 10 deck. You've got a beautiful deck, sunroom. So we're gonna have to make sure that all the buyers know about this. They'll see it in the pictures. We'll market it. It'll be in the description. But I'm talking knowledgeably about their home compared to the other homes that are on the market right now. And all of a sudden they're thinking, man, this guy knows everything about the homes. And really, I picked 2 homes. I went through them right before, on my way to that listing appointment, and they're fresh in my memory, right? But they don't have to know that, do they? So again, we're kind of picking some information just there. But when I come over here and I hit print, so I got my MLS sheet, I'm going to print. I only had one selected, right? And so I was just printing that one. So I'm narrowing this from 230, again, too many. Let's just select 3. Okay. One thing I can do down the bottom is I can hit refine and I can hit narrow. And all of a sudden I just removed, all those other homes. So sometimes I start with 100 and I get down to 50 and I need to refine that 50 again down to 30. And that's a good way of doing that. But under actions and print, right here is asking you, here's all the different types of reports that you can do. It defaults to the agent full. I want to give them the buyer full. What's the difference between agent full and buyer full?
Agent has when it's sold price. What has all the agent's information?
There you go, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going into a listing appointment with an agent full, and I'm saying, Mr. and Mrs. Sale, this home sold for $5,000 over list price in 1 day. Here's that agent's information. And do you think there's a chance that they may think, well, that agent, and then they ask me, how many homes in this neighborhood have you sold? And all of a sudden, I just gave them that agent's name, that agent's phone number. I guess they call that agent and say, hey, I heard you're the neighborhood expert. We'd like you to come list our house. And all of a sudden, that was all because I gave them that information, right? So buyer full, when we hit print, right down the bottom, just here, it gives some information. Again, commission, we now know, we're disclosing buyer's agent commissions a lot more now. It's going to be very prevalent very, very soon. And so they're getting a little bit of information, but it doesn't even give them the buyer, the listing agent's information. You know how many buyers think that they can call the listing agent and get a better deal? When if they're talking to an ethical agent, they hopefully shouldn't be getting a better deal, right? And so always be reminding your database when people are going to open houses, hey, just remember that agent represents the seller and the seller only. I'm going to represent you, and my job is to get you, the best home for the best price possible and negotiate on your behalf. You do want someone in your corner representing you on your behalf, right? Good. And again, that's one of those obvious yes questions just there, okay? Any questions on kind of the searching and as we're going through right here? Like I said, just takes time playing it. So real quick, we're going to jump into tax records. So I'm looking at this listing right here, 807 Sand Lane. Let's just pretend that this is a sold home. And I was just looking up when it sold the last time. I'm going to click on this little government looking building. It's called the Realist Map. You can also find the Realist search up here in public records and by searching their address. So someone called me out to list their home, and I want to prepare for that listing appointment a little bit, okay? So, and again, we're just going to use this address as an example. I'm going to click on this, and it's about to give me a lot of information about this home right here, okay? In just a second. So right here, so if I had hit public records realist, it would bring me to this screen, and on the left side, I would type in their address, okay? Right here, I can see this little pin dropped. That is that home. So I'm going to click on it, and right here, I'm going to hit report. Okay. So you can see it's a new construction home. It says sold for 1.7 million. That's probably the builder closing on that land. So we're about to go through basically a sheet of information, and I'm going to print this information off, and I'm going to take it to the listing appointment. Go ahead.
So mine did not come up to this, it gave me an evaluation agreement.
Maybe it's the first time you've logged. You just got to agree to some terms.
Four, and I called FMLs.
They weren't able to help you. I can take a look at it real quick after class. Usually FMLS is actually a fairly helpful customer service. Occasionally it's in that email saying, hey, our customer services aren't doing anything. So if you have any problems, call us. Otherwise we're going to play them off. We can take a real quick look at it. Usually they're helpful.
Let me ask you something. So someone has like this property that they bought at the courthouse, and when they went to it, they can't find it. Like it's like in between. They see like say 5102, they see 5108, but they can't find the house. So this thing that you just did, where they put the pinpoint on it, would that be something?
You can drag around the map a little bit and search, or you got to back it out, maybe just typing in street address. They would have received something, even if it's like a, I mean, they're not going to get a full warranty deed or anything, but they should have received something from the courthouse that would have like a deed book and page number on it, basically. And we're going to get in deed book and page in a minute. Whenever anything happens and is recorded, it gets put in a certain book and a certain page, and you go to the records room and ask, can I see book 5053, turn page 90, and there will be like a recording of like a warranty deed or a quick claim deed.
Will it show the picture of the property?
Probably not in that. No, not in that. It'll just be it'll basically just be like the deed or the quick claim deed that's recorded.
Because when you look at it on Zillow, it shows the house, but when you go to that house is not that address. Like it showed a different house. So
yeah, and sometimes that's borderlining on us, and hey, you may need to talk to a real estate attorney on that part. And there are risks involved with going to the courthouse step. And buying them liens, other things like that. So it can get complicated occasionally. Scroll over to this tab. So right here, before I go on this appointment, one huge mistake a lot of agents make, let's say we have a husband and wife. They show up to a listing presentation and only the wife is there. Well, where's the husband? Well, I'm going to tell the husband everything. You don't have to worry about that. We'll make the decision together. Well, the next night, an agent shows up and presents to both of them. And you know which agent they picked? The one that they were both present for, okay? So unfortunately, I'm going to butcher these names. And so you're going to ask them. One, you're going to confirm who you're speaking to. So let's just say this said Bob and Sally, okay? If I'm not talking to a Sally, but tax records say a Sally owns it, I've done some research, and hey, just in preparation for meeting you tomorrow, I noticed the tax records show, Bob and Sally own this home. Did you just go by a different name? Are you Sally? Oh no, Sally's my mom, and Bob's my dad. Okay, well, are Bob and Sally going to be there tomorrow? No, I'm handling everything for them. And now I've got to push to meet with Bob and Sally, because if Bob and Sally don't sign that listing agreement, I don't really have a listing, okay? If the daughter signs the listing agreement, unless she has like some form of power of attorney to sign on her parents' behalf, that's not a real valid listing agreement, because she doesn't technically own the home, okay? And I need to make sure my schedule fits when Bob and Sally can both be there. Well, no, Bob and Sally aren't, my husband's working tomorrow night. Well, what about Saturday morning? Yeah, that would work great. Sometimes we don't ever ask a seller, when would you like to meet? Ask them, does tomorrow at 5 work for you, or does Friday at 5 work good for you? You control your schedule, because when you ask when would you like to meet, they're going to pick a time that doesn't work with your schedule, right? And all of a sudden you'll rearrange things. Give someone 2 options, and if it doesn't work, they'll tell you that it doesn't work. But meet with both people, okay? I can't tell you how many times I've gone on listing appointments and made that mistake and not won the listing, okay? As a newer agent, and when I was a newer agent, I went on listing appointments that maybe I knew I wasn't going to win. Maybe that I knew they were crazy unrealistic. But I'd only been on 2 previous listing appointments. And hey, that third one was practice. maybe I could talk to them about being realistic. And if I couldn't, well, maybe I've got, a new clothes that I want to try out with them. A few questions. Maybe I've just done a new kind of redesign my listing presentation. I'm going to test it out in this unrealistic seller, knowing that, hey, if it goes wrong, I probably wasn't going to get that listing, or it wasn't a listing I wanted anyway. So, it's finding that balance between, practice makes perfect. As we're going down right here, there's info I'm looking for, characteristics. I want to make sure that when I show up, maybe I ask these questions on the phone. At minimum, when I show up in person to list their home, Mr. Ms. Seller, I just want to confirm what tax records say about your house, because when I list it for sale, I want to make sure all the information is correct. Because nothing's worse than me listing their home at 3,300 square feet and then calling me the next day saying, we got 3,800 square feet. Now, why are you losing 500 feet off of my house? Right here, Mr. Ms. Seller, it says we're 2,609 square feet. Would you agree with that? Okay. Now, maybe they don't agree with it. Why? Right here, you can see it has gross square feet. So gross square feet is going to include the garage as well. A standard garage is like 440 square feet, something like that. But right here, basement square feet, unfinished. So it's saying it's got a basement, and it's saying the whole thing's unfinished. Well, guess what? Bob and Sally didn't pull a permit, and they've got 1,000 of it square feet finished. Me personally, I'm going to add that 1,000 square feet to the building square footage right there, okay? I've never once ever been asked, hey, when they finished this basement, did they pull a permit? Right? I'm also not asking the seller that question, just so you know that. I always just tell my sellers or friends that ask me those kind of questions, stick to your lane, i.e., please don't go rewire your whole basement and things like that. Bring in electricians. But some people are capable of hanging sheetrock and painting their house. But people ask me about permits all the time, and it's kind of a line that we gotta toe fairly well, okay? So we're just confirming the home meets what they agree with. And right down here when it says last market and sales history, this is a new construction, so it doesn't quite work as well. But this shows everything that gets recorded about a home, okay? And so sometimes we use this, in a nosy way to see how much money people owe in their house. But let's just say we refinanced our home. That's a new loan. Guess what? That new loan is being recorded, okay? A new deed's being recorded. And so there's a few things we're checking right here. One, last market and sales history, where it says right here, deed book and page. When we fill out a purchase and sale agreement, I think it's box number 2, it says, how would you like to identify this home? Ideally with a legal description. Ultimately, very rarely do we list a home and go have the attorney pull the legal description and have it read in the MLS. That's perfect world. But the second option is the deed book and page. So right here, if we went to the courthouse steps and went to book 52706 and turn to page 212, we will find the limited warranty deed that says who owns this home, who sold it to them, what are the parameters of the home, things like that. And that's how I'm going to identify this home on a purchase and sale. Writing the correct street address does not identify a home on a purchase and sale, okay? Hopefully you'll be working with a good enough attorney that will call you and say, hey, Quentin, the address that you wrote on the purchase and sale doesn't match your deed book and page. Here's the correct deed book and page. You need to write an amendment to correct that real quick. A good attorney should catch that pretty early for you. We'd be surprised how many times that happens. Back when I first started selling, guess what we had to do in 2012? We came to this page and we looked at what their last market, what their last mortgage or refinance rate was. And they just refinanced last year for 500 grand. And I'm looking at a home that's worth 350. So I had to know going into a listing appointment, do I need to talk about short sales with this person or not? Now, most of us haven't heard the word short sale. You owe the bank more than what the home's now worth. And if you can prove some form of hardship, the bank, to a certain extent, may or may not forgive the difference, may work it out with you. We're all knocking on wood the net never comes back again. But just know, Rodney talked about a shifting market, and don't be scared of a shifting market. If you go to, and you go pull like the top 20, 30 agents in Atlanta partners right now, I guarantee you that in 2006, 2007, they weren't their mega agent status yet. But in 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, they worked and they took market share and market share. And then guess what happens when the market exploded? Their market share exploded with that. And all of a sudden, that is huge agents, right? And so there's opportunities in everything, okay? So I'm printing this sheet off right here. And I'm going in with there just to make sure the information is correct, okay? Okay, you can see some little mortgage data just there as well. Any questions on what we went through just there? So the last thing that we're going to talk about is, how do you price a home? What are the steps that we're going to go through to price a home? Some people go through like a super calculated, formula, and they get real precise. I do more of what I call like a rough CMA. So I'm going to start and I'm going to put my criteria in the same order that an appraiser does, okay? So the appraiser's goal is to get the home, one, to be like kind. So, if I'm looking at a ranch home, I really need to go try and pull comps of the ranches. I should hopefully be able to find enough ranches that fit that. Split level homes. When it comes to size difference, and appraisers should be sticking to about 20% difference. So if my home is 3,000 square feet, they should be going, 600? So they should be going like 2,400 square feet to 3,600 square feet. They shouldn't go pull an 1,100 square foot ranch and use it as a comp for my 4,000 square foot ranch, right? The smaller the home, the more the price per square foot it typically sells for. And the opposite of that is the bigger the home, the lower the price per square foot, typically outside of some unique homes. If I'm looking at a unique home, let's say I'm looking at like a horse ranch, maybe we back it out to the county, right? The appraiser wants to go find like kind ranches, horse ranches, and they're willing to go out to the county for that. The first step is going to be the neighborhood. Like if I was to pull up Flowers Crossing and there was 50 sales in the last 6 months, I can use that neighborhood alone to price the home. If I pull up Flowers Crossing and there's 3 sales in the last 6 months, I need to then back it out. And what do we back it out to next after neighborhood? Yep, so we're going to go to elementary school district. Now, which is weird because a lot of buyers, when they search, they're talking like high schools. But when an appraiser is going to back it out and typically go to the elementary school district next. And you should, when you find an appraiser or appeal an appraiser, be able to slide any comp in there that's the same elementary school district. Some people will tell you like a mile, the way the crow flies. I've always been able to get elementary school, same district comps reconsidered for the most part, okay? And so, you start off with elementary school district. We'll just type one in real quick. I'm looking at most of these, right? So expired, I'm looking at a home, why did this home expire? Because if my home looks just like it and we list for the same price, there's a chance it's going to expire too. The homes that are pending, what do these homes that are pending look like compared to these homes that are sat 60, 90 days on the market? Typically, just looking through some pictures, the price, we're going to see the difference between those homes, right? And again, 190, I really don't want to look through 190. And also just remember on this closed part, think about when you're pulling data from. If I'm using comps that were from 6-8 months ago, that's very different than finding a comp from the last 2 months. I'm going to put a lot more weight in a home that's gone pending or sold in the last 2 months than I did 7-8 months ago because the market has shifted, okay? And just remember, shifted just means, going back to slightly more normal. Okay, and you saw from that chart in the beginning of class, 3 months of inventory is still a super healthy real estate market, okay? So from in this, my goal would be to narrow it down with price and to maybe be looking like 70 or 80. And then I manually will click through those homes, okay? Now I'm not clicking through every picture of the home. I'm going to be looking at one picture. Maybe I'm looking for a ranch and I'm clicking through, just finding the ranches, checking every one I do. And now I just narrowed it down to 15 of the homes. I want to get within about 10 years of age. So if the home was built in 2007, 1997, 2017, the closer the better. 2000s to 2000s would be ideal. And then I'm basically looking at, the sold information. What did it sell for? I am doing a price per square foot to make sure that I'm, close to the normal, but I'm never going to walk into a sale and say, the average price per square foot in this neighborhood is 150. You've got 3,000, so 3,000 times 150 is, 450. That's what we're going to list for. But if my price per square foot says 450, and we're talking about listing for 600, I need to go back through that and just check because something's not quite aligning just there. Okay, so we're basically just checking them off. We're looking for, a newer construction or a ranch. Get yourself down to 15. Then remember we said that we can refine and narrow. I'm looking at what it sold for in the neighborhood. I'm looking at what it sold for in the elementary. And then the second part of it, if we list for $300,000 today, what other homes are priced from 280 to 320? Where if we list and there's 50 homes for sale between 280 and 320, where do I rank in that 50? If I rank top 10, I'm good with it. If I think, there's 30, 40 homes that look better than this in this price bracket, I'm going to have to wait for all those homes to sell before we sell. But I just looked at the data that says how quickly homes are now coming on the market. We're going to be in trouble. I also say, we don't have to be the best home on the market, price per value, but we need to be one of the best homes on the market. Okay, so again, when I say a rough CMA, I'm walking in with 3-4 of these listing sheets printed out, and on it I've highlighted it and I've made the difference. So I'm going to highlight 5,400 square feet, and right next to it that they're 4,800 square feet. That this one has 3-car garage, or this one has 2-car garage. There's this 3-car garage, so I'm going to plus 12,000 for that as an example. Bathrooms, imagine 7-8 grand for a full-size bathroom. But there's things that we can't take into account. This home is pretty big on 0.3 acres, okay? So it doesn't have a huge yard. But sometimes a 0.3 acre yard can be usable. And sometimes a 0.3 acre yard can be, you look at the deck and there's like a 50-foot drop below it and there's 0 backyard. That's not really something that an appraiser goes out there and takes into account. But the buyers that go out there do take that into account. And in a ridiculously hot market, a crazy market, if you want to call it that, how many buyers overlook that 50-foot cliff in their backyard? Because some of them are desperate, right? Now, as the market moves back to normal or, more normal, all of a sudden the buyer's saying, you know what? We got to C5 today. This one, there's a backyard, we're just going to have to toss it out. And we don't want, to help a buyer buy a home that when they call you in 5 years' time, we can't sell, right? Driveways are a good example of that. Crazy steep driveways, big drop-off driveways, yards that you can see are eroding. The appraiser's not going to come in there and take 50 grand off because there's a super steep driveway. But when the buyers pull in that driveway and their car scrapes and they back out and they don't want to buy it and they lose a huge percentage of the market, the home on paper may be worth 500, but the market's going to tell them they're more at 475 because there's a factor in it that like a standard appraiser doesn't take into account, right? So our goal is ultimately to get them as close as possible in price. Don't fight over 10, 15 grand, but also make sure that you have the data. And a few years ago, I sold my best friend's parents' home, and they were some of the most unrealistic sellers you'll ever meet. And I put them in my car, and guess what we went and did? We went and looked at the other homes that were listed for $650, and I asked Irish, if you had $650,000 to spend, would you buy this home? Or would you buy your home? She said, well, I'll buy this home. So what does that tell us that we need to do your home? We don't want to spend any more money renovating it. So we're going to need to list at this price because buyers are going to go through that exact same process. Okay, and don't be afraid to show sellers a couple of homes, right? It's not super conventional, But if they are willing, yeah, I'll go meet you this Saturday, go see 2 of the homes. You think another agent's taking the time to do that? I highly doubt it. And if they show up and they meet me at those 2 homes, I'm thinking there's a pretty good chance they're gonna use me. And so, especially if I'm not holding 50 listings right now, and I've got the little bit of time to put more effort in. If I set a listing appointment with someone, be prepared, show up prepared, spend that extra little bit of time, because that person's pretty far down the funnel in being a listing versus spending 4 hours cold calling people you've never met. I would be better off putting them in my car, preparing an extra hour and a half for that listing presentation, showing up and knocking it out the park, because I got a real hot lead just there. Okay, any questions on what we went through today? I'm going to make tomorrow a good cloud CMA video where we're basically going to pick 4 comps. We're going to go through the searching of them in the MLS. We will then get those MLS numbers written down. We'll load them into the cloud CMA, and it's going to generate a big report, and we'll talk about what each page means. And then we're going to talk about how to customize. So there's like an adjustment section, and your goal is to get every comp to be like the subject property. So I'm showing up on a listing appointment, that's the subject property. So if the comp has 3 bedrooms and the subject, three garages, and the subject property has 2 garages, I need to take a garage off the comp and take the value of that garage off the comp, because now that comp has two garages and it's like mine. Okay, and again, that's just one of those showing up prepared, having kind of some information on what each item could be worth. I'll send that out, probably about a 20-minute video, and then that way when you create a CMA the next time, you can kind of play pause that video, go through it. Every year I offer something to my database that when their taxes come out, if they need any help appealing it, I'm happy to generate a report for them. And I typically do about a 20-30 page cloud CMA report with a bunch of charts, just a bunch of information, and the person that receives it at the county. I have an incredibly high percentage of helping people win their tax appeal, because the person doesn't want to read a 30-40 page report. It looks good, you have a nice cover letter. Cloud CMA does not give you the prettiest of cover letters, and so I would recommend going into Canva or Designs and making like a nice branded cover sheet, and just removing the first page of Cloud CMA when you print it, put your first page there, and then using the rest of those pages. Okay. So any questions on what we went through today? Hopefully that was helpful to you guys. Just kind of as an overview, we can do more of a, I think someone mentioned a Georgia MLS. Maybe next month we can get a Georgia MLS one going. Because Georgia MLS, you can pull some really deep market statistics. That again, part of being prepared is just kind of spitting out facts, right? Don't underestimate what some simple data can mean, because the seller's just looking for a person that can do the best job, and that means different things to different sellers, right? I'm just going to sell, what are you looking for in your next agent? Well, if they tell me marketing, guess what I need to spend some time talking about in my listing presentation? Marketing. If they're talking about, I want the agent that knows this area the best, well, I'm going to walk in there prepared talking about that home that's for sale down the street, this one, because they probably were all nosy neighbors. They probably went through that open house and saw that house, and you don't want the seller knowing more about that house than you do, because all of a sudden they're now the expert and you're not, and they're going to dictate how it goes. And you never want a seller dictating to you how to do your job, right? Those ones aren't at all fun to work with just there. So do we have any questions on Zoom? I'll get that that video tomorrow to Casey, and she can send it out to you guys. Don't forget, I've got a YouTube channel if you need help with command, with other things inside of there. Cloud CMA also has a link that you can share with people, like the what's your home worth link, and it can give them a generated report. You can iframe that into your command website as well. I've got a video on how to do that. Some people don't love automated reports because sometimes they're accurate, sometimes sometimes they're not. But it is a conversation starter, and that is a page a lot of people like to get onto their website. So I'll share that as well. Okay. So jump off Zoom if you do have any questions. I think we have the speeds turned up. If not, I appreciate all of you guys being here. I also have a class Tuesday at 1 o'clock, Thursday at 2 o'clock, you know, sometimes in person, always on Zoom. We cover topics from, you know, follow up with your database, you know, how to use the command and the home search app. The end of the month, I've got buyer listing presentations. Every single class that I do, it's recorded. So let me jump in Canva real quick in case you want to get those links right now.
Stuart, what don't you leave at your presentation?
Oh, yeah.
Anything that costs me a lot of money. So like I used to have like a very nice you know, like flip presentation. I didn't love leaving that with them. I'm okay leaving the contracts with them. You know, an example of, because again, my easiest way to close someone is to ask them, you know, do you think I'm going to be able to do a great job, you know, helping you sell your home? And then just turning it around and saying, hey, this is the agreement that we have to work together. And maybe I have it already filled out. I can't think of anything that I wouldn't leave behind, to be honest with you. Did you have anything in mind?
I know, well, what I do not leave is a seller net sheet. I'll explain it, go over it, maybe, especially if they're, you know, a C personality, but
I'm not a fan of a seller net sheet, and here's why. My wife and I, we had this lady, we helped her buy, I guided her to a home that she made an insane amount of money on, and she married a guy who was difficult and took over the real estate transaction, and we were mid-negotiations. This guy was adamant on net sheet. Like the offer would change by $1,000 and he wanted a new net sheet. And in doing a net sheet, my wife typed a number wrong. And we were held to that number. We lost a lot of money in that deal. So ever since then, I said, you know, I'm not doing net sheets. Now, with that said, the brokers would not like that answer. They would like for you to do a net sheet. So in a net sheet, yes, I will have, and I'm almost cautious with the net sheet. You know, list price, and I'm going to put some closing costs in there. Even though, you know, our goal is to help negotiate no closing costs to the buyer, I would much prefer, Mr. Seller, to have $5,000 written in here so that you're seeing worst case scenario. And then obviously commission. Maybe I'm throwing in $1,000 or $1,500 for some expected repairs. And then when we net them over $5,000, $6,000 more, then we've kind of won. But yeah, I think a net sheet would be an example of what I wouldn't leave behind. So we got some QR codes right there. You know, class recordings, there's a bunch in there, and you know, the YouTube channel with even more. One of the hardest questions to answer is on the phone, you know, what's your commission? Right? Because if someone is adamant knowing what my commission is over the phone, what's that telling me? Yeah, they're looking for the cheapest agent, right? And so, and not everybody shops at a discount store, right? Some people want quality over price. So, Mr. and Miss Seller, you know, until I see your home, until I show you my different options that I have available, you know, I wouldn't be able to give you an honest opinion on what my commission is. You know, why don't we set an appointment for tomorrow at 5? I'll let you know what I do to sell homes. I'll let you know the different options I have available for you, and you can pick the one that works best for you. Okay. And one of the best ways to get 6% commission is this. You write down on a piece of paper 5, 6, and 7, and you say, you know, circle the one that you are most comfortable with. Or maybe it's, you know, 5.5, 6, and 6.5. And guess what the middle one is? The middle one's what we ultimately want, right? And you know how many people circle the middle? Or even if they circle the other one, yeah, I'm okay with it because I get, you know, the middle ones too. And again, it goes back to what's your personality, right? Some people have incredibly strong and bold personalities, and other people, their personality is a little more reserved. That's what's kind of cool about real estate. There's not one personality that's destined to succeed. The bold personalities find it a little easier sometimes to close people and to stand firm on their commission and things like that. But if I'm reducing my commission, I'm getting a promise from the seller that during and after the transaction in the next year, they're going to refer me to 2 friends. Now, again, you know, we're not like signing a legal contract and holding them to that, but I'm already putting the picture in there. There's a great bold exercise that talks about the promise. Anyone heard the promise? It's basically you are making a promise to them and they're making a promise to you. Yours is all about service and commitment and representation, and their promise is to refer people to you. It's a page in bold. It's a team that kind of designed it, and during the transaction, you're asking for referrals, right? After the transaction, we got a lot of agents are kind of scared to follow up afterwards. What happens if the fridge broke? Well, if I recommended they got an inspection and the fridge broke 3 months later, that sucks for sure. That's not my fault that the fridge broke, right? And I can refer them to a refrigerator repair person and stay in contact. But again, just remember that stat out there that 80-something% of people say they would refer and work with their agent again, and only like 20% of people do. That's because after we sell the house, sell Quentin the home, and then I never talk to him again. And he loses my number, he gets a new phone, and 8 years later he moves, and he can't remember that amazing real estate agent that he wished he could work with, and he just meets a random person. Okay, so like I said, I'll get that Cloud CMA video to you today. Sorry we didn't get to it today. We got to talking a little bit more, but I think a recorded video when you're making something like the Cloud CMA, being able to refer back to it and play it and pause it will really help you guys to kind of duplicate it just there, okay? So I appreciate all of you guys that are on Zoom today. We're gonna have a couple more classes coming up. I'll get with Casey to see if we can get a Georgia MLS one in next month and dive deeper into some statistics, okay? So you guys all have a fantastic day.
Thank you.